on GB News.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Deebs & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton Tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News. Frank, fun, fearless and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and tune-in apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. Tonight, he's the Lynch who stole Christmas. Marxist Mick and his selfish RMT comrades are hell-bent on destroying the festive period for millions of Brits to try and bring down the Tories. I'll explain why enough is enough and the government must change the law to protect hard-working folk from strikes. That's in my digest next. Then Fleet Street legend Calvin McKenzie is fired up as he takes aim at the despicable and potentially deadly walkouts planned by cancer ward nurse and 999 call handlers. Calvin uncancelled to explain in his words why his Angels will never regain their halo at 10:45. Elsewhere, it's no surprise that Harry and Meghan's revolting reality show is set to be an orgy of victimhood.
She's becoming a royal rock star.
And then
everything.
But as the toxic Sussexes lose a 14th staffer since 2018, do they only have themselves to blame for the way the public turned on them in the years after the royal wedding? Well, top US journalist Meghan Kelly gives her unmissable verdict on that at 9:45. Plus, after a string of inaccuracies in the trailer exposed, do you trust Harry and Meghan's claim that they will reveal the full truth? Star Daily Mail columnist Sarah Vine says they're gaslighting the nation. She'll line up alongside Princess Diana's former butler Paul Burrell to do battle with the woke American author Ernest Owens. Have a feeling he'll probably be supporting Meghan. He's in the clash at 9:20. Nothing has been able to stop the invasion of 44,000 illegal migrants this year, but former Downing Street Chief of Staff Nick Timothy has a groundbreaking battle plan to stop the boats that's got the support of Superwoman Suella Braverman. He's going to reveal all to me at 9:35. But as our globalist PM rushes to distance himself from that immigration overhaul, is Fishy Rishi's soft touch responsible for Reform UK's now soaring poll ratings, and has it put the Conservatives under genuine threat? The party's leader, Richard Tice, joins me live in the studio at 10:20. As police confirm his family weren't home during The shocking raid on his £6 million mansion. Should star England winner Raheem Sterling return to Qatar to help the Three Lions achieve World Cup glory, or is he right to put family over football? My superstar panel will debate that in the Media Buzz at 10. Tonight, I'm joined by top Daily Mail columnist Amanda Patel, Calvin Robinson and Nigel Nelson. Tomorrow's newspaper front pages and Greatest Britain Union Jackass are incoming too. This is Dan Wootton Tonight. Let's go. My opinion in just a moment, but you know how we do things here. First, the news headlines at 9 with Ray Addison.
Thanks, Dan. Here's the latest from the GB newsroom. Downing Street has declined to reveal if the Prime Minister is worried about patients dying due to NHS strikes. That's after GMB, Unison and Unite unions announced that thousands of ambulance workers and other NHS staff will walk out across England and Wales on the 21st and 28th of December. They say the government is ignoring workers' pleas for a decent pay rise. However, the Health Secretary says unions' demands are not affordable. Baroness Mohn is to take a leave of absence from the House of Lords following allegations that she benefited from a COVID PPE deal. It's alleged that Michelle Mohn and her children received millions of pounds after she recommended a company to ministers at the height of the pandemic. Baroness Mohn has denied the allegations. Stephen Flynn has been elected as the SNP's leader in Westminster. The Aberdeen South MP replaces Ian Blackford with immediate effect. First Minister of Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon, has congratulated Mr Flynn after his win. He'll appear at PMQs questioning Rishi Sunak for the first time tomorrow. The Health Secretary has told the House of Commons that we're seeing an earlier peak in Strep A cases than usual, but there is no new strain. At least 9 children have died from the bacterial infection in the UK since September. The latest is a 5-year-old from Belfast. The government says antibiotics could be given to children at schools affected by Strep A as a preventative measure. Meanwhile, an investigation is being carried out into the death of a 4-year-old child in Ireland to see if it could be linked to Strep A. 7 more cases of diphtheria have been recorded among migrants in England, taking the total for this year to 57. The UK Health Security Agency says they were discovered between November 28th and December the 4th. It marks an increase from the previous week when only 5 new cases were diagnosed. Last week, the Immigration Minister told MPs that asylum seekers with diphtheria symptoms would be put into isolation. A man has been arrested on suspicion of common assault during a walkabout by King Charles in Luton. Bedfordshire police say the suspect, aged in his 20s, was arrested after an egg was thrown in the direction of the monarch. King Charles was seen being guided away from the crowds by his security detail following that incident. We're on TV, online and on DAB+ radio. You're watching GB News, the People's Channel. Back now to Dan Wootton.
It's bad enough to live in a country where there's almost an expectation that you're not going to receive timely treatment in the NHS, and your train, no matter where it's going, no matter when it is, it's probably going to be delayed. But to know that trade unions are going out of their way to make these inefficiencies severe just to ruin Christmas for millions of Brits for purely partisan reasons is a disgrace that can no longer be ignored by the government. Enough, I say. The dangerous and divisive head of the RMT, Mick Lynch, last month claimed his strike dates had been specifically designed to avoid the Christmas period.
Dates that we've selected avoid the Christmas period. Our strike action will finish on the 17th, and there is a complete week before Christmas Day that people can make their arrangements.
So people should be grateful?
I didn't say they should be kept grateful. You asked us why we've chosen the dates. The dates we've chosen avoid the Christmas period, and everybody should be able to travel.
But now Lynch is not happy with the government's, I would say, generous offer given the circumstances, a 5% pay hike this year, a 4% one next year, with no forced redundancies until 2025. Far more job security, by the way, than in the private sector. But because he's not happy with that, Christmas is considered fair game now, with Network Rail staff going on strike from 6 p.m. on Christmas Eve until 6 a.m. on December the 27th. Lynch is now trying to throttle the country this Christmas and take us into another winter of discontent. Above inflation pay rises, also demanded by nurses who want a 19% hike, will simply bankrupt the country and lead to an inflationary economic death spiral. Lynch doesn't care about the other private industries like the good folk running pubs and bars and restaurants and the decimated world of hospitality that he is destroying by this move. Industries, by the way, that don't have the protection of guaranteed work paid for by you and me via our taxes. So why? Why is Rishi Sunak letting this happen? This lack of action is going against an explicit Conservative election manifesto promise that stated we will require that a minimum service operates during transport strikes. Sunak committed again to do just that during the summer leadership campaign.
2 more strikes coming this week, 2 more train strikes. Will you ban strikes on essential public services like the railways?
Yes, it's a manifesto commitment and we need to deliver it.
We'll do it.
Well, go on then. What the hell are you waiting for? The Transport Strikes Minimum Service Levels Bill has only had one reading thus far, with no chance of it becoming law in the near future. Someone told me probably next summer we're looking at. So is it going to take millions missing out on our first normal Christmas in 3 years for the government to realise why this law is urgent? Or is it going to take hundreds of deaths as ambulance staff, 999 call handlers and paramedics also today vowed to strike later this month? Lynch, he's pathetic, isn't he? I mean, he likes to think he's a tough guy, a bruiser, some sort of man of the people. But let me tell you, the bloke is gutless. So gutless, in fact, that he won't even agree to come here and speak on the People's Channel to justify his Christmas destruction plan. Instead, he just throws petty partisan insults.
Any chance you'll be taking an interview with GB News anytime soon?
I don't think so. They're not my favourites. They're a bunch of right-wing bigots as far as what I can see. So occasionally I get an interview because they're in the crowd, but I've got no interest in meeting Nigel Farage or any of their other right-wing militants that they've got, so that's that.
No, Mick, you won't come here because you know we are not staffed by Marxists like the BBC and Sly News, and we'll call you out for the terrible deeds you are committing against hard-working Brits this Christmas. To respond now, my superstar panel. Top Daily Mail columnist and broadcaster Amanda Patel, the Conservative commentator and GB News star the Reverend Calvin Robinson, and political editor at the Sunday Mirror and Sunday People, Nigel Nelson. Mick Lynch, Amanda Patel, he is a
Don't mention me in the same sentence with that man after he just called us right-wing bigots.
Yes.
I mean, he's a trot. You know, he's
a trot and he's a troll.
And he's a troll. What do you mean?
You know, he's trolling us. That's all he's doing.
Oh, he's trolling us. I thought he meant like those little hairy dolls.
Well, he looks
He's got no hair. He's got no hair. He can't be a troll. Okay. His action and the union's action moving the strikes over Christmas is a willful act of malice. And it's much more than just destroying people's Christmases, which, as you say, is going to be bad enough because the hospitality industry says it'll cost them £1.5 billion. They have a golden quarter between Halloween and Christmas when they make them enough money to keep them going. He's wrecked that. They're already going on strike next week, and then a week, and then another week, and then again and again and again. And this is not about him trying to get better conditions for his workers. All he cares about, the unions are in the pocket of the Labour Party. The unions are Labour's paymasters. That's why Keir Starmer is so dancing around, not coming out and saying, you know, this is absolutely outrageous. Let businesses survive. Let people go and shop. Let shops, you know, survive and have the first decent Christmas they've had for 3 years. This is a malicious and willful political act to destroy the economy, which they can do by taking out so many public services on strike. And so they leave Keir Starmer with a better legacy, with a totally wrecked country. So this is what's all behind it. This is not about the workers. It's about getting a horrible Keir Starmer government
Totally agree.
I knew
totally
Nigel
agree.
would be
Nigel,
sweating
what
now.
she said, that's wrong. That's completely true.
Well, it's the first time I've actually heard...
I can't remember my name again. It happens all the time.
It's the first time I've heard the unions being in the pocket of the Labour Party. It's normally said the other way around, that the Labour Party are in the pocket of the unions, which I don't think either is true, by the way. And this strike is an industrial dispute, not a political one.
And what about the 15 other strikes that are on at the moment? You know, the ambulances, you've got even people repairing the railroads, you've got nurses, you've got firefighters, you've got everyone, you've got porters, you've got...
That's the perfect storm of inflation and low pay offers. These are still industrial disputes.
Not low pay offers, Nigel.
They are low pay offers. They're way below inflation.
So you believe that public sector workers at the moment who have job security, which folk in the private sector don't have...
Well, not in the railway industry they have at the moment.
Over 10% pay increases.
No, not
when we were in an inflationary
not necessarily
death
10%,
spiral.
but 4% is not enough.
Well, no, it's 4% this year. It's 4% next year. It's 5% this year. That's 9% over 2 years.
Over 2 years. But, I mean, if you work it out, it's 4% this year.
Do you know what? Ask anyone
Which
in
is
the
what
private sector. I bet anyone watching right now in the private sector would say if their boss offered them a 9% pay rise over the next 2 years, they would be lapping it up because folk in the private sector are either being sacked or getting nothing, Nigel.
Well,
that's the reality.
But that is what is happening in the railway industry. One of the points of the strike is to try and stop people being sacked. At the moment, they want to get rid of all ticket collectors. You want to get rid of conductors on trains. A whole host of people are about to get sacked. That is what the dispute is partly about.
Calvin Robinson?
I think perhaps they should. At this point, I think we should automate the railways. I think I'm all for protecting jobs, but at this point, these people are holding the country to ransom. I hadn't even considered what Amanda said about the economy. That, you know, the high street has been dying for the last couple of years, and we're propping it up at Christmas, as we usually do, and that's going to be decimated.
Well, and especially hospitality, Calvin.
Yeah, I hadn't even considered any of that, because I was too busy thinking that this is one of the most important religious festivals of the year. This is an attack on Christianity, an attack on religion.
And an attack on family.
And an attack on the British people. Yeah. That's what this is. It's not even about
because think
the
about
government
what we do
or the Labour Party.
at Christmas.
It's about
we want
us.
to be with our families.
Of course we do.
This is an attack on the family.
It's
so
disgusting.
many people haven't been able to. And Christmas is a really important time. You know, I've got a girlfriend coming out from Australia. She's lapsed. She's come to church on Christmas Day. You know, it's a really important time.
But do you believe in the right to strike, which is the key to this, or are all strikes wrong?
I think it goes back to Calvin's point, doesn't it? That a lot of these jobs are going to be obsolete anyway. Nigel, you and I have worked in industries, in the newspaper industry. They have culls all the time. We work in the private sector. We don't have a guaranteed job. We haven't had pay rises, even cost of living, for over 10 years. Yeah. And we just get on with it, and we worked all the way through COVID.
And I mean, Nigel, I do not believe that critical jobs in the public sector where lives are going to be put at risk and where critical infrastructure for this country to run should be able to be shut down by strikes, which is why I think the government, and this is where we probably do agree, have been very lax on this transport strikes bill.
Well, I mean, it'd be rather better if the government actually got round the table with
They are.
Well, no, they're not. I mean, Mark Harper is not doing that.
So where did the 9% offer come from?
The government are pulling the strings from a distance rather than actually sitting down and negotiating some kind of settlement.
Yeah, because it's not... I'm sorry. That is not up to the minister to do.
That's what they say, yeah.
Exactly.
But if you want these things solved, what a government is there to do...
Oh, so what? We give in to that bully boy Lynch? Absolutely not.
I didn't say give in. I said come to a settlement.
But it's
Absolutely
not a negotiation if they're holding Christmas at ransom, is it? And
He's a bully.
Let's not forget these staff are on a median of 44k and the drivers are on a median of 50.
No, they're not. They're on a median of 31 grand. The drivers don't actually belong to the RMT.
The staff are on a median of 44. The drivers are on a median of 59. This is far above national average pay.
The ones who are on strike are on a median of 31,000. You're taking the whole thing, all the rail workers together, and getting to 44,000.
He's a bully boy. He's a trot. As Amanda said, he wants to destroy this country and he wants to make it very easy for a hard-left...
Or he wants a settlement for his members, which is what a union general secretary should be doing.
Because he could have actually got a very good settlement. No enforced redundancies until 2025, guaranteed pay increases of 9% over the next 2 years, I'll repeat, ask anyone in the private sector if they would be happy with that arrangement, including me, and they would all say, absolutely, give me that deal. So this is selfishness, it's greed, it's partisan, and I'm sick of the media giving this bloke a free ride. I am absolutely sick of it.
It's sinister.
It is. It's very sinister. Amanda Patel, Calvin Robinson, Nigel Nelson, my superstar panel, who are here all night. But coming up, as 44,000 illegal migrants invade our shores and game modern slavery laws, the man who thinks he might finally be able to stem the Channel crisis, former Downing Street Chief of Staff Nick Timothy, breaks down his no-nonsense battle plan at 9:35. But first, after a string of inaccuracies in that awful Netflix trailer, do you trust Harry and Meghan's claim that they will reveal the full truth in their show? The Daily Mail's Sarah Vine believes the Sussexes are gaslighting the nation. She and Princess Diana's former butler Paul Burrell do battle with top author Ernest Owens in the clash straight after the break. But I want to know what you think on this. Dan at gbnews.uk. Tweet me at gbnews. Our poll running there too. The results are going to be interesting, and they're coming up after the break.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Deebs & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
There's a guy who went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. B, I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
Time now for The Clash. We've been treated to not one but two teasers for what at this stage can only be described as Harry and Meghan's fictional Netflix biopic. Look.
No one sees what's happening behind closed doors. I had to do everything I could to protect my family.
I realized they're never going to protect you.
I was terrified. I didn't want history to repeat itself.
We all know the Sussexes believe in their own truth, but for a pair so frequently under fire for telling porcupines, you'd think they'd make every effort to at least appear authentic. However, in barely 2 minutes of the trailer, 5 whopping great fibs have already been spotted, so here's a quick fact check for you. Footage purporting to show the media frenzy around the couple was actually Paps waiting for Katie Price last year. A shot of a lone snapper secretly photographing the Sussexes inside a private home was actually pre-agreed coverage of a visit to the Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Then we have this dramatic sequence showing cameras ambushing a limo before the trailer cuts to tearful Meghan. But guess what? She wasn't even in that car. The passenger was Donald Trump's ex-lawyer. And how about this horde of clamouring photographers desperate to capture the couple? Well, it's from a Harry Potter premiere, years before they even met. And finally, my favourite, this picture of Harry shielding his face conveniently crops out his ex-girlfriend, Chelsea Davy. Well, my next guest, Sarah Vine, hits the nail on the head in her latest Daily Mail column describing Harry and Meghan as gaslighting the entire nation while lining their pockets with misery. But what do you think? After that string of inaccuracies, do you actually trust their claim? Harry and Meghan's claim that they will reveal the full truth in their new reality series. Send me your thoughts to dan@gbnews.uk. Vote in our poll at GBNews. But I'm delighted to say that weighing in on this now, we have the Daily Mail columnist Sarah Vine, alongside Princess Diana's former butler, Paul Burrell, and the author and journalist Ernest Owens. Previously, he's been a big fan of Harry and Meghan. So, Sarah Vine, I agree with you now. I actually think this is gaslighting.
Yes, I mean, they're basically accusing the whole of Britain of being, of sort of a vendetta against them. And, I mean, they were only here for about 18 months. I mean, that's why they have to use so much borrowed footage, I guess, because they don't actually have enough of their own to use in their Netflix documentary. One thinks that perhaps someone at Netflix is in a bit of trouble for using all of that. But it is, and the sort of, this narrative that they've got going, which is that, they were doomed from the start, and that the royal family had a vendetta against them, the British media had a vendetta against them. It was Diana all over again. It's complete fantasy. For a start, it's incredibly insulting, I think, for Harry to sort of give Meghan the mantle of Diana. I mean, Diana's situation was wholly different from Meghan's. She did actually have quite a lot of grievance with the royal family. There were lots of bad things that happened to her that were really quite genuine. And as far as I can tell, Meghan was welcomed with open arms. I mean, the British public loved her. Everyone thought she was fabulous, gorgeous and clever and funny and sassy and all of those things. And, Prince Charles walked her up the aisle and, they had every opportunity to make a success of it. They just were impatient and they didn't like it when anyone criticised even the slightest thing they did.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, Paul Burrell, I'm fascinated to hear from you on this because for many years you defended Harry. Yes. You were there when he was a young lad. But do you trust these two now? Do you believe a word that comes out of their mouth anymore, Paul?
Well, ever since the Oprah Winfrey interview, which we all picked to pieces, and since seeing the trailers for their new series, it's their truth. This is Meghan and Harry's truth. As our Queen so eloquently said, our recollections may vary. What she was saying was, of course, well, we didn't recognise what we saw. And, you're quite right. The Queen extended a warm hand of friendship to Meghan. She said to her, "My dear, it's going to be difficult coming into this family. I'll help you. I'll take you on your first engagement to Chester. I'll show you the ropes. And if you need any help, Sophie Wessex will help you. And if you want to continue acting, you can do that as well." Meghan was extended so many friendly such a friendly attitude from the royal family that Diana never had. So, you know, I don't know why we're hearing whinging and whining the whole time from two celebrities who are living in their mansion in Hollywood, counting their money. This is completely self-obsessed, narcissistic behavior, which, and they're using the images of Diana to promote their series, which I think is shameful. I mean...
Well, it is, given they've spent years telling people not to commercialise and monetise the memory of their mother. Ernest Owens, you've always been a big supporter of Meghan and Harry. You must be having doubts now, Ernest. 17 provable lies in the Oprah Winfrey interview. We've only seen 2 trailers and there's already 5 big porcupines. You don't believe these 2 anymore, do you?
I think that there are a lot of people who, whether or not this trailer came out, was going to trash it from the start. And the people who are coming in acting as though that this trailer was going to change their perspective are just bad faith actors. I mean, let's be clear. When they got the Netflix deal, that was up for criticism. When they first came into the royal family, there was a lot of criticism over Meghan Markle. And those in the United
there wasn't,
States,
Ernest. Ernest, I've got to pick you up on that. I've got to pick you up on that. There wasn't.
Scrutinizing. That's not true. And the issue is that the level to which
we loved her, Ernest. Were you here on the wedding day? The whole country stopped.
I respect you, but there really wasn't a lot of hostility towards her. People loved her. The press loved her.
Piers Morgan did. Okay, Piers Morgan came in bitter, a bitter ex, jealous, and felt all types of ways.
He features in the promo calling her a rock star.
Right, and then here's the other thing, that regardless of what was going to happen with this, just admit that you hate it on arrival. Don't even, if they could have just, even the book title of Harry's book created an uproar of people at these British publications bashing it.
Okay, Ernest, but you have dodged my question. You have dodged my question. Do you believe them? 17 lies in the Oprah Winfrey interview, 5 lies in the trailer. Do you believe them?
Do you believe the royal family isn't racist when they had a racist family member there? Oh. There has to be context, right?
I believe the royal family are absolutely not racist, Ernest. Are you saying that they are?
That happened. The royal family has had instances of racism. We just saw it last week. Okay. And that proved the concern people had.
Paul, you know Lady Hussey. Do you think that's fair to say that she's racist?
No.
Did she not do a racist thing last week? So you don't believe that woman?
I don't agree with what happened.
Ernest, just let Paul respond.
She's an 83-year-old lady who accompanied the Queen on engagements and signed letters and correspondence for her. She is not aware of the woke society. She's not aware of what she said. And she's
that's ageist.
I think she's been trashed beyond belief, to be honest with you. And I don't agree with what's happened. I'm not a racist, and I don't like racist behavior. And the royal family are not racist. Don't say that. I have travelled the world. I don't think
it's fair to say
Sarah Vine coming.
Is proof that the royal family is racist. I mean, that's ridiculous, completely ridiculous. But I think what's interesting is that what you say about Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan is not Britain. Piers Morgan is very famous in America, and I can understand how, because he's so famous in America, Americans might have thought that he represented the views of all Britons, but he doesn't, and he didn't. And actually, it's wrong to suggest that the whole of the country gave her a hard time when she arrived. They really didn't, actually. They really, really didn't. She got a much easier time than Kate Middleton did when she married Prince Harry. She had a much worse time. And so, I think Paul will confirm, did Princess Diana.
Ernest, why are you dismissing that, Ernest? That is a fact. We rule in this country. We can produce the front page of the newspaper. We can produce the video.
All I'm saying is that there has been multiple complaints that have come about racism from the royal family. And every time this is brought up, which Meghan Markle and Harry both said that there were instances, and people wanted to dismiss them and gaslight them. Now, last week, you want to blame the fact that...
Do you know what, Ernest? Do you know what, Ernest? And I'm sure I'll let Sarah and Paul respond to this too. But I want to see evidence. Show me the evidence, because, Sarah, what I worry about is there's going to be a lot of generalities in this documentary. If you're making a claim that serious, who was racist, what was said, what day was it said, and I hope you have darn right given a right of reply to whatever person you're accusing of racism. And, Sarah, they won't do that. They will speak in generalities.
No, have you seen the documentary?
That's what they
already shown the documentary.
Ernest, let Sarah respond. Ernest, let Sarah respond.
Sorry, Alice. That's what they did in the Oprah Winfrey thing. They didn't say and give you any specifics. They just cast aspersions. They just basically threw a load of mud at the wall and hoped that some of it would stick, which it did. But I think if you're really going to levy those really serious accusations, you need to come up with, as you say, facts, figures, times, dates, incidents, specific.
Let's see the documentary.
No, and we will wait. We will wait. Yeah. We will wait. We will have this conversation again. I will invite you all back. Absolutely. We will have this conversation. But there is a track record here. And unfortunately, the signs from the trailer, 5 big fibs so far, it's not a good start. But thank you so much for the debate. Top Daily Mail columnist Sarah Vine, Princess Diana's former butler Paul Burrell, and the author and journalist Ernest Owens. Who do you agree with, though? Do you trust Harry and Meghan's claim that they will reveal the full truth in their new documentary? Dottie on Twitter says, there are 2 sides to every story. You will get theirs and you will have the other side, and probably in the middle is the truth. I would not dismiss it all. Fair point. From Ali. No, it will all be sensationalised to drag in the viewers. I doubt the ability of this pair to tell the truth. The truths they told Oprah turned out to be widely discredited. And from Matthew, they wouldn't know, honestly, if it bit them in the A. They are perpetual victims and will do anything and say anything for their own gain. And your verdict is now in. While just 8% of you do trust that Harry and Meghan will reveal the full truth, 92% of you say you have no faith in their claims. Of course, we will be analysing it all and fact-checking on Thursday night. That is going to be an unmissable edition of the show. But coming up, as yet another member of staff quits the Archewell organisation after just 18 months, do Harry and Meghan only have themselves to blame for pushing away their allies and the British public? US superstar journalist Meghan Kelly weighs in at 9:45. But first, nothing has been able to stop the invasion of 44,000 illegal migrants this year. But former Downing Street Chief of Staff Nick Timothy has a groundbreaking battle plan to stop the boats that's won the support of Superwoman Suella Braverman. He breaks it all down straight after the break.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here. You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us. We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing. You see, amazing.
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216,
Freeview Channel 236,
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio,
with the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's perhaps the biggest political betrayal of our time that at present the overall asylum bill has reached a ginormous £2.1 billion annually, despite Brexit. That's enough to pay the wages of 62,000 nurses. Of that number, almost £6 million per day of our money is spent on housing these migrants in hotels. 3/4 are adult males, the vast majority are under 40, and more than a third from the safe NATO member state of Albania. So in a welcome intervention from the Centre for Policy Studies, senior researcher Carl Williams and Theresa May's former Chief of Staff Nick Timothy have drawn up a revolutionary blueprint for fixing our broken asylum system. The report calls for an end to the life-threatening channel crossings and illegal migration, instead allowing 20,000 places per year for what they describe as resettlement. What's not to like? But despite Home Secretary Suella Braverman throwing her support behind their thesis by penning the Ford, Downing Street seems to have taken a noticeably cooler stance, saying there is no single overnight solution to what is a global problem. But I'm delighted to be joined by co-author of the immigration report, Nick Timothy. Nick, I found that response from Rishi Sunak's team today very curious because, of course, if you read your report, which I have, you're making it very clear there isn't one solution to this. There's a whole load of things, but they need to be done very quickly if the Conservatives have even the slightest hope of turning this around before the next election, right?
Yeah, I think firstly, we can go into the details of what the proposal was and how it might work. One of the things that caught people's imagination, I think, was that Suella wrote this forward. She said she didn't agree with absolutely everything in the report. I think that means that the government isn't about to start introducing identity cards as we proposed. But
no, I don't like that idea either, Nick, I have to admit. I like the rest of it, but not that one.
Yeah, you're a very weak man then. But Home Secretaries don't endorse documents like this, which don't exactly reflect existing government policy, unless they're very sympathetic with the direction of travel set out. And also, Home Secretaries don't do that kind of thing without the endorsement in turn of Number 10. So I think what we can be confident, whatever that sort of non-committal quote was from the spokesman, that the government is taking these proposals seriously and it might reflect the direction of travel that they're interested in.
A couple of key points in the report that I want to discuss with you specifically. The first is the Modern Slavery Act. And obviously it's very significant that you are behind this report, Nick, because you were the Chief of Staff to Theresa May. This was a prized piece of legislation for the former Prime Minister, but you're saying now that it needs to be reformed.
Yeah, the Modern Slavery Act was passed with good intentions, good objectives, and it's worked in lots of ways. and it's very important that we do have laws that protect people against the danger of being trafficked, the danger of being in enforced labour, and that kind of thing. The problem is that the Modern Slavery Act at the moment is being abused. So where illegal immigrants are identified and face the prospect of action against them that might lead to their removal from the country, where people are making claims in the asylum system and those claims aren't going perhaps as they might have wished, they're starting to use the Modern Slavery Act as one of their lines of defence. And there is evidence of Albanians who are being picked up in a variety of circumstances, all of whom have identical letters pre-written for them by traffickers, by the people they've paid to bring them over to the UK, so that they can claim to be modern slaves at the point at which they might be picked up by the authorities. So there's quite a lot of abuse. So what we've said in the report is, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, don't get rid of the Act, but we need to reform the way the national referral mechanism works. We need to look at evidential thresholds, look at the timing when people are allowed to make claims under the terms of the Act. And if necessary, if there's evidence of really widespread abuse among one particular nationality, then we could suspend the provisions of the Act for a whole nationality of people.
Do you know, Nick, if your former boss, Mrs May, agrees with you for the need for the Act to be reformed?
We don't talk so much these days, but I'm told that she's very sceptical of the need for changes.
Yeah, and then the other, I think, really significant part of the report, in fact, the most important part of it, is that you say effectively we need to withdraw from the ECHR. Now, I think that is a complete no-brainer. It's almost impossible for offshore processing to happen in places like Rwanda if we don't. But all of the sense, I guess, I get, Nick, from the new regime, Sunak and Hunt, is that they don't have the balls to leave the ECHR. They don't want to be criticised by their mates at the international organisations. What's your sense from government? Is there any desire? Because obviously we know Suella Braverman believes in this. She said it on the record during her leadership campaign, but she's not going to be able to do it unless Sunak really believes it's necessary.
Well, Rishi actually said some pretty punchy things about the ECHR himself during the first leadership campaign. I think we have to be fair to them. You have to understand the political context is that there is no manifesto mandate for withdrawing from the ECHR. It would be a very contentious thing to do. There would be some Conservative backbenchers who would love it. There would be some who wouldn't like it. There'd be problems in the House of Lords. And I think one of the precedents from the Brexit wars, we remember the Gina Miller case where she challenged the right of the government to withdraw or to signal its intention to withdraw from the European Union by triggering the relevant article. That court case led to the Supreme Court ruling that you couldn't take a decision like that, withdraw from an international treaty like that, and which resulted in people losing rights without passing an act of parliament. So you would need to get the decision to leave the ECHR through parliament, which might be a challenge as things stand. But it is very important. We definitely need to change the way our human rights laws work in general. One of the things we've done in the paper is to make proposals short of leaving the ECHR, so make proposals to make changes that might help with both the channel crossings and removing people from the country consistent with our ECHR membership. But in the end, we think we probably are going to need to leave the ECHR because it's the ECHR which is the blockage for almost all the ways in which we struggle to secure the border and enforce our immigration laws.
Indeed. Couldn't agree more. It's a very important report. Congratulations on it. Former Downing Street Joint Chief of Staff Nick Timothy. But coming up, as police confirm his family weren't home during the shocking raid on his mansion, should Raheem Sterling rejoin England in Qatar? Or is he right to put family over football? My superstar panel return to debate that one. It's contentious in the media buzz at 10. But first, as the toxic Sussexes lose a 14th staffer since 2018, do Harry and Meghan only have themselves to blame for their isolation? Top US journalist Meghan Kelly gives her unflinching take from across the Atlantic straight after the break.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dubes & Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Dubes & Kerr.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Breaking tonight in yet another declaration of war against the royal family, Harry and Meghan will accept a human rights award in New York later this evening for supposedly taking a stand against structural racism within the monarchy. And if you thought that was shameless, the couple's eco-hypocrisy was also on full display as they rode into battle on a gas-guzzling private jet, a far cry from the depiction of their difficult lives seen in the trailer for their new Netflix reality show released on Thursday.
It's really hard to look back on it now and go, what on earth happened?
You hear that? That is the sound of hearts breaking all around the world.
She's becoming a royal rock star.
And then everything changed.
OK, so let me get this straight. According to Harry and Meghan, we all turned on Harry and Meghan at the click of a finger. Nothing, of course, to do with the substantial bullying allegations made against Meghan from royal courtiers, as well as the telling statistic that the Sussexes have lost at least 14 employees since their marriage in 2018. The exodus was made worse this week, with 2 of their staffers departing from the Jerry Archewell project, including the executive in charge of Meghan's podcast. I guess you can't really blame her, can you? But anyway, to separate the fact from the Montecito fiction, I'm delighted that US media superstar Meghan Kelly joins me now. I mean, Meghan, this trailer presents a narrative that takes into account nothing of how Harry and Meghan actually acted when they entered the royal family after their marriage.
Yeah, and actually goes so far as to suggest what caused that change in a snap from her being, in her words, in the trailer's word, a rock star, to being loathed. And the trailer posits it's race. It was race. Well, that makes no sense because when they got married in May of 18, the British public adored them. And guess what? They knew by then that she was of mixed race. Same with the American population. I was there. I was over with you guys across the pond covering this wedding. Dan, would you believe it? I actually bought yours truly. I actually brought this little memento home, the Harry and Meghan wedding mug. We loved her. We loved them. So it is a lie to suggest it had anything to do with her race.
No, Meghan,
you don't switch on a dime
and
when
I
it comes
can
to race.
vouch for you. I can vouch for you because I was on, you remember you were with NBC at that time, and I was on that incredible, huge studio that you had opposite Windsor Castle for one of your shows just before the wedding. And you were loving this. You were loving it. Yes. And you know, at that point, so was I. And I wrote column after column praising what a breath of fresh air this woman was going to be. I encouraged her to keep acting, keep doing her thing. But Meghan, I'll tell you what won't be covered in this documentary, the fact that it was the Queen herself who actually blew the whistle on Meghan's behaviour in the end. She called Harry in, she warned him that the way Meghan was treating her staff was completely inappropriate. We know now, of course, there was also a slew of bullying allegations. I have a feeling none of that's going to feature in the Netflix sham, is it?
Well, the bullying is amazing because I got to imagine that you get a job working directly for two senior royals and you're excited to have this job. It would take a lot to force you out of it. Her staff is running for the doors. It's like a Kardashian seeing a camera or a plastic surgeon. They can't get out past it. Let's go. She's lost 14 people in just a few years. I mean, listen, I launched my podcast 2 years ago. I've got about 11, 12 staffers. I've lost one in that time. That's more. My staff has followed me from Fox News to NBC to now on my podcast. Abby, my assistant, been with me for 13 years. That's what's normal when you treat, and it's not because I'm not tough. Trust me, I'm tough. I raise the standard very high and I expect my people to meet it, but I do it lovingly like most bosses. I'm not unusual. She is. They're leaving her because she's nasty. She's mean. And by the way, it wasn't just the bullying that turned the public on her. That was part of it. But it was also the fact that, let's go back and look what started to happen. They couldn't get along with William and Kate, who already had a ton of goodwill with the British public. They had to get their own place at Frogmore Cottage because they needed to have their own special place paid for by the British taxpayer. The castle wasn't good enough for them. Then we saw the wedding, by the way, at which she had no family, no friends. It was only celebrities she did not know. Then more and more people started coming out of the woodwork and saying she abandoned them. She abandoned them. Once people could no longer do anything for her, she had no use for them. Then she got pregnant and they announced it at, I think, Beatrice's wedding, which was rude. Then they had the baby and they didn't want the British public to know. They didn't tell them till like 4 days later because all the people to whom they owed their castle and the cottage and all of these riches that they're adorned with, they weren't entitled to see the baby because of Princess Diana. Because Prince Harry, as this trailer also shows us, has an obsession with trying to make Meghan Markle into Princess Diana, and she's not. The British public remembers Princess Diana was killed because her driver got drunk and sped in the streets and she was killed. It wasn't because the British press or the French press, the paparazzi did not kill Princess Diana. And the scenes of deception in their trailer trying to make it look like Meghan Markle's under threat from the same deranged press are equally dishonest, as I'm sure you've covered.
It's completely dishonest, Meghan. I mean, actually, Harry and Meghan could walk around the UK without being followed at all. There are actually laws in this country which I think are probably over the top and draconian, which means they are far more protected here than they'll be in any other country in the world, especially the US. So you're completely right. That is a lie.
You think about it, Dan. Okay, I realize that Netflix or the director put together the trailer, but Meghan and Harry would have approved it. So they saw those pictures and understood that they were being misused. Pictures from the Harry Potter premiere, pictures from a model's trial, pictures at Desmond Tutu's, all of which they either had nothing to do with or blessed themselves personally. They didn't care because she has a pattern of overstating the facts of adoration when it comes to her and overstating how much of a victim she is, right? Like, look what the lie she told about the cast in The Lion King, who allegedly said that when she married Harry, they celebrated in South Africa like they did when Mandela was freed. Okay, sure they did. The lie about how baby Archie was almost killed in a fire when they were on tour, that was a lie too. Like, time and time again, she picks something, she aggrandizes it to make herself either look like the victim or like she's way more adored than she actually is. And this trailer is just the latest example.
Well, Meghan, I have to be honest, having got to know her family very well over the past few years, and by the way, A lot of people should have listened to the Markles, who were dismissed, by the way, to begin with, because they're a working-class American family, so they were dismissed. But if you listen to the Markles, if you listen to her father, her brother, her sister, actually, it's very easy to come to the conclusion, and I think I have come to this conclusion, that Meghan Markle has been a compulsive liar now for many, many years.
They were right. They listened. We should have listened because they were right. The sister who was so dismissed is like, as you point out, like working class, whatever. And that's thanks to Meghan. Did Meghan ever defend her? Ever? Did she defend her dad? No, she let him take the beating in the press to the point where he felt he had to pull that paparazzi stunt, as the poor guy was not seasoned in dealing with the press, and she let him twist in the wind. And there's a reason nobody who knew her was actually at her wedding, other than her mother. No one wanted to be there, and she didn't want anybody to be there because they probably knew a lot more about her. That's why we got George Clooney and people like Oprah, who had absolutely nothing to say about her other than they want something from her.
Yeah, totally. Oh, Meghan, goodness me. It's going to be quite a watch on Thursday, isn't it? I was
going to say, having said all that, I'm 100%. I got the popcorn. I'm going to have a martini, and I can't wait to talk to you after.
No, indeed. And I love being on your show last week, Meghan, too. I recommend people go and check it out. Meghan is, of course, host of the Meghan Kelly Show, available on Sirius XM in the US, but you can find it on YouTube and as a podcast for international fans. But coming up, is Fishy Rishi's failure to tackle the illegal migrant crisis behind Reform UK's soaring poll ratings? Are the Tories now in serious political danger? Reform leader himself, Richard Tice, is going to join me live in the studio at 10:20. But next, as police reveal his family weren't at home when his mansion was raided, should Raheem Sterling rejoin England and Qatar? Is it just right to put family over football? No one else is discussing this in the media, so we will. Straight after the break, we're back in 2.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by 2 of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late-night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Dan Wootton. Tonight, with ambulance workers confirming they will walk out just 4 days before Christmas and nurses reportedly abandoning cancer wars, will striking health providers ever regain their halos after putting British lives at risk for money? Fleet Street icon Calvin McKenzie is absolutely fuming at callous NHS shirkers he's uncancelled at 10:45. As Prince Harry bemoans the pain and suffering of women marrying into the monarchy.
Pain and suffering of women marrying into this institution, this feeding frenzy.
I realized they're never going to protect you.
So is the Duke of Sussex wrong to exploit his tragic mother, Princess Diana, to promote his and Meghan's Netflix show? I'll debate at 10:30 with my superstar panel. Amanda Patel, Calvin Robinson and Nigel Nelson. As Downing Street distances itself from a battle plan to tackle the migrant crisis, do the story numbers of Reform UK prove Brits are desperate for a hard line on immigration? And are the Tories leaving it just too late to take action? Well, Reform UK leader Richard Tice joins me in the studio on this at 10:20. As police confirm his partner and children weren't home during the shock raid of a £6 million mansion, should England ace Raheem Sterling get back to the Qatar World Cup, or is he right to prioritise family and football? That's coming up, along with a first look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages and the media buzz. Plus, why has pop star Rita Ora received a frosty reception? Sheen outfit. Stay tuned for Greatest Britain Uni has to find out before the hour is out. Let the news headlines at 10 with Ray Addison.
Thanks, Dan. Here's the latest from the GB newsroom. Downing Street has declined to reveal if the Prime Minister is worried about patients dying due to NHS strikes. That's after GMB, Unison and Unite unions announced that thousands of ambulance workers and other NHS staff will walk out across England and Wales on the 21st and 28th of December. They say the government is ignoring workers' pleas for a decent pay rise. However, the Health Secretary says unions' demands are not affordable. Baroness Mohn is taking a leave of absence from the House of Lords following allegations that she benefited financially from a COVID PPE deal. It's alleged that Michelle Mohn and her children received millions of pounds after she recommended a company to ministers at the height of the pandemic. Baroness Mohn has denied the allegations. Stephen Flynn has been elected as the SNP's leader in Westminster. The Aberdeen South MP replaces Ian Blackford with immediate effect. He'll appear at PMQs tomorrow, questioning Rishi Sunak for the first time. The Health Secretary has told the House of Commons that we're seeing an earlier peak in Strep A cases than usual, but there is no new strain. At least 9 children have died from the bacterial infection in the UK since September. The latest is a 5-year-old from Belfast. The government says antibiotics could be given to children at schools affected by Strep A as a preventative measure. Meanwhile, an investigation is being carried out into the death of a 4-year-old child in Ireland to see if it could be linked to Strep A. 7 more cases of diphtheria have been recorded among migrants in England, taking the total for the year to 57. The UK Health Security Agency says they were discovered between November 28th and December 4th. It marks an increase from the previous week, where only 5 new cases were diagnosed. Last week, the Immigration Minister told MPs that asylum seekers with diphtheria symptoms would be put into isolation. And in other news, Donald Trump's real estate company has been found guilty on all counts in a New York fraud trial. The former president's organisation carried out a 15-year-long criminal scheme defrauding tax authorities. A judge will now determine the exact amount that the company will be fined. However, it could be as high as £1.3 million. On TV, online and on DAB+ radio, this is the People's Channel, GB News. Back now to Dan.
Tomorrow's news tonight now in our media buzz. First front pages in already. Mohn alone leads the Metro after Baroness Michelle Mohn steps back from the House of Lords amid allegations she cashed in on multi-million-pound government PPE contracts. And wrap up warm, everyone. Snow is on the way, according to the Daily Star. Temperatures could plunge below -10 degrees in some areas later this week. I do love the Daily Star take on it, though. Uh-oh, it's so cold. Even Amanda Holden has had to put on a coat. And we never like Amanda Holden in too many clothes. My superstar panel back with me now. Top Daily Mail columnist and broadcaster Amanda Patel, the Conservative commentator, the Reverend Calvin Robinson, and political editor at the Sunday Mirror, Nigel Nelson. Now, shaken footballer Raheem Sterling, still unsure, we're told, whether he'll be able to return to Qatar for England's World Cup quarter-final clash this weekend after the shop robbery of his Surrey mansion. The winger missed England's last 16 victory over Senegal on Sunday, dashing home after learning his family pad had been broken into, with intruders nabbing £300,000 worth of designer goods. It's now emerged that despite what was previously reported, his fiancée and 3 young children were not in the premises at the time, with Surrey police saying there is currently no evidence of armed intruders or threats of violence being involved. England skipper Gareth Southgate has admitted he and the team are having to wait and see whether the Chelsea star will rejoin them, with sources saying Sterling won't return until he's confident his family is safe. So, Amanda Patel, what I've noticed, like I've noticed with a lot of stories at the moment, including Lady Hussey too, there's a real cone of silence around this one. There's a real fear that no one wants to say the obvious, which is, OK, Raheem, your family's safe. The police are confirming that there were no armed threats. Yeah. You're paid millions and millions and millions of pounds to be a footballer. This is our chance of winning a World Cup. Get on the plane, take your family if you have to, get the security guards to your house, which, by the way, FIFA have offered to pay for, and go and play for your country. Am I wrong about this? Am I missing the point?
I feel like you're reading my mind. That's the sequence of events. First of all, we're here.
But no one's saying it, Amanda. No one's saying it.
He should get his sweet little butt back out to Qatar, take his family if he needs to. His family were not even in the house. They weren't even back in the area when the raid took place. Look, I have huge sympathy for anyone who's been who's had their place burgled. It is really horrible. Unfortunately, there wasn't £300,000 worth of watches and jewellery to nick at mine. But, you know, it's a traumatic thing.
Yeah, no, it is
I can understand him coming back. But also, you've got to remember, I mean, first of all, he should be back. And if he's not going to come back, he should say now and just quit. And Southgate should say, right, he's out of the team. If you're going to put your family, who are in no danger, ahead of England, then you shouldn't be there. But he's got a very troubled background, this guy. I mean, he's... you remember he was the one who had... He's got the M16 Kalashnikov thing tattooed on his leg because his father was murdered when he was 2. He was born in Jamaica. Not that matters. But his father died there, and then he came out when he was 5. He spent 3 years during his schooling where he was put into a special school because of his behavioural problems. He's a troubled kind of guy. Maybe this just triggered something in him. Or maybe it was the fact that they only get paid £14,000 a game playing in the World Cup as opposed to the £300,000 a game he gets playing for Chelsea. It's all wrong. It's all wrong. He should be kicked out of the team or he should come back.
So, sorry, Coven, it was actually the FA, of course, that has offered to pay for security at all of the players' homes.
He's on 15 million quid a year.
I know. But is the latter point that Amanda makes, Calvin, the most important one? Maybe Amanda and I don't actually know what's going on here. Maybe there's more to the story. Maybe it has triggered Raheem in some way. Should we have more sympathy?
I don't know about his background and all of his special needs.
True.
I don't know about it.
Oh, that's true.
But it's irrelevant. I think if his home has been burgled, his family will be feeling violated. He's going to be wanting to spend time with his family at home, and that's his priority. I'm with you in that he should let the team know he's not coming back. If he's not coming back, fair enough. But I do think his priority is his wife and kids, and he should be there with them.
Over helping England win a World Cup?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a game. No, absolutely.
Nigel, now?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Calvin that, to misquote Bill Shankly, that it's only a game of football. Yeah. This is not a matter of life and death. And his priority should be his own family.
But come on, it's not like...
Can I just be honest about this?
His family aren't in danger.
That's what I was going to say, because can I be honest about this? The robbery was also not a case of life and death. I would have a very different view on this if his family had been home, if there had been any violence.
But it doesn't matter. When you get back to your house and someone else has been in there and burgled your house, you feel violated. It's a horrible, eerie feeling.
I have to be honest, I'm quite surprised with you on this because
really?
To me, yeah, and I'll tell you why.
Family comes above everything.
No, but
if he was going back to war to fight for a country, great. But he's going to play a game of footy.
Yeah, but I'll tell you why. Yeah. This is playing into, I would say, the woke mindset that we have these days. And I'll explain why. Which is that actually people are just allowed to do what they want. So if that means working from home, they can work from home.
What it is
and actually sometimes there is an expectation.
No.
This is a privilege. You are playing for England at a World Cup.
Doesn't matter.
Obviously, if there are health reasons, serious family
what
reasons,
this is in our society,
mental health reasons,
in the West,
he took a place away from another player.
In particular, in the West and in this country, we have forgotten our priorities. We've got it all mixed up. We've put a game above family. Family should come above everything except for God himself.
Yeah, but
that's the way. Everything else should follow.
They're not in danger.
There's no saying they're in danger.
They're not in any
We don't
danger.
need
any of those.
He is the man of the house. He is the father. They need him.
But Kelvin, they also need him to make money. I mean, if you really want to go back to basics
they've got plenty of money.
But if you want to go back to basics on that front, it's also important that people work, isn't it, and keep their commitments to duty.
His family's not going to go bankrupt if he doesn't go back. All he has to say to the team is, look, I'm not coming back. I'm with my family, thank you very much.
I don't know.
Well, have the guts to say it, pull out, and let someone else take his place.
Well, he doesn't need to yet, does he? He has to be back by Saturday.
No, he doesn't.
So that part's fine. He's putting his family above everything else. Once he's satisfied they're okay.
I hardly ever talk over anyone, you know that. I will never be on the sofa again with two people and a presenter who know nothing about football, OK?
How dare you?
And as a staunch football supporter and Spurs fan, with my I'm
with you.
I know you're with me on that kind of moral line.
And I love the England team, Amanda. I do.
Well,
I support the England team big time.
Football's such a religion in this country.
No, it's going to be fantastic. We're all celebrating. I've got my flags out for Saturday's the game.
But this is why I'm disappointed. I'm with you.
He's just... No, unless there's something that comes out in this story that at the moment he looks like a prima donna who went... His family were not endangered. He could have gone back for a couple of days, said to his mates, upon whom...
But that suggests he's skiving as if he doesn't want to play in the World Cup.
But
I'm sure
he doesn't seem to want to.
He doesn't seem to want to play for the
Nigel,
World
imagine
Cup.
if your boss said, look, we're going to put security on your home. You can bring your family over, but we need you on the bench because this is a really important clash. It is do or die. Come on, I think you go over. But I think what fascinates me about this story is, again, this is the only place on TV you'll see any debate about it because all of the rest of the media are too scared, just like they were too scared to cover both sides of the story with Lady Hussey as well. And that is, I think, a really disturbing trend. Now, tributes have been pouring in today for film and TV icon Kirstie Alley, best known for her role in the hit sitcom Cheers, who has died at the age of 71 following a secret battle with cancer. Now, I was very fortunate enough to have spent time with Kirstie. Absolutely loved her. She was a hero for me, actually, for those legendary roles. But also her bravery, because despite the backlash she often received, Kirstie, remember, she was a backer of the former US President Donald Trump, always stood up for her beliefs in clear defiance of the narrative Hollywood's liberal elite expected her to embrace. And among those remembering her today were her Cheers co-stars, Kelsey Grammer and Ted Danson, friend Jamie Lee Curtis, who called Kirstie a great comic foil, and perhaps most notably, her former Look Who's Talking co-star John Travolta, who said Kirstie was one of the most special relationships I've ever had. I love you. I know we will see each other again. And it was Kirstie's typically frank revelation about just how deep her bond with Travolta ran that made global headlines when she did join me on my podcast in 2018. And I just wanted to play you a little snippet of that conversation tonight.
Were married at the time, but you did say that when you first met before he was married, you fell in love with him.
I did.
But it was never a sexual relationship, though.
Well, it wasn't a sexual relationship because I'm not going to cheat on my husband. I consider what I did even worse because I actually let myself fall in love with him and stay in love with him. I would say he would agree that it was mutual, that we sort of fell in love with each other.
Fascinating. She was hilarious, outrageous, and honest till the end. So rest in peace, Kirstie Alley. Nigel Nelson, Calvin Robinson, Amanda Patel, do stand by. Football fan, that's why she's in red. How dare you? I'm a huge England fan, Amanda Patel. Huge England fan.
It's close like I get red.
And I'm a West Ham fan too, by the way. Not saying I'm a regular,
yada, yada.
but I do
When's
that.
the last
But anyway, a few months ago. Now, coming up, as Prince Harry bemoans the pain and suffering of women marrying into the royal family, is the monarchy letting down royal wives? My Super Sub panel are going to return to debate that in part 2 of the Media Buzz at 10:30. We'll have more of the newspaper front pages for you then too. But first, are the Tories leaving it too late to tackle the migrant crisis? And is their failure to handle the national emergency responsible for Reform UK's soaring poll ratings? The party's leader, Richard Tice, joins me live in the studio straight after the break.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh, my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
There's a guy who went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8". My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
Now, the last time I spoke here with Reform UK leader Richard Tice, I told him that his party's poll numbers might not be high enough to seriously challenge the Conservatives. But since then, he's done everything he can to boost their standing among voters, including offering a solution to the illegal and legal migration problems plaguing Britain. So perhaps it's no surprise to see that Reform has surged to 9% in a lot of recent polls, joint with the Lib Dems, and just 13%. Some would say touching distance behind the Tories. And I'm delighted to say Richard joins me in the studio now. So, Richard, you were very bullish last time that the poll ratings were only going in one direction. Yeah. And there is some proof now that actually Reform UK is surging.
Well, I took it personally, Dan, because you said I was flatlining. So I thought I've got to get my skates on. And we have indeed, because we're now level with the Lib Dems. We're heading north. The Lib Dems are making no progress. And the Tories are heading south fast, and we've been putting forward some bold solutions. And it's interesting, isn't it? Since we put out some really clear solutions on how to deal with illegal immigration, all of a sudden, the Tories, once again, they're spending out headlines and they're producing reports with Nick Timothy that you've had on. Funny how all their solutions seem to be rather similar to the ones that I put forward.
Well, maybe that's a compliment. And look, I do want to talk about some of your specific solutions in just a moment, but can we talk about the politics first? Because this is very important, Richard, because really the only way a lot of Tory supporters will even consider giving you a chance at the next election if you can be the biggest party outside of Labour, if you can seriously challenge to win seats. Do you think that's realistic? Because there's still a long
Absolutely,
way
there's no question. Well, you say there's a long way to go, but actually the gap is closing rapidly. And that's because some of those Tory supporters are coming our way. We've had 7,500, nearly 8,000 new members. Many people are coming our way. But also, because of what we're now saying about net zero, what we're saying about utilities, the cost of energy, actually concerned Labour voters are looking at us and saying, well, actually, they're talking the common sense. They know the pain and suffering that financially we're all suffering up and down the country. We're the only party.
It must be Tories who are switching over to you.
It's hard to know, but the assumption is it's the majority Tories. But we're definitely drawing from the Labour Party as well, and that's a good thing.
Is Sunak your dream Tory leader? Because, in fact, he may have appeased the parliamentary party, but he has been uninspiring.
Look, but it's worse than that. He's U-turning on everything. I mean, whatever he talks about, whether it's fracking, whether it's house building, whether it's wind farms, whether it's deregulating, whether it's Brexit, you've no idea what he stands for. I think, like most Tory leaders, actually, he doesn't stand for anything except power. He's a tax and spend, Gordon Brown-like con-socialist. And
I don't
think
it's
the country...
fair to say most Tory leaders, though, is it? Because, look, Liz Truss was finished in record time because she believed in something.
Theresa May didn't believe in anything. Liz Truss believed in something, and the rest of her Tory colleagues decided we don't want a leader that believes in something, heaven no.
Yeah.
And I think what the poll ratings are showing is that people actually, they like the solutions that we're coming up with. We came up with the boldest, most radical health and social care policy yesterday, saying that we should pay, that essentially frontline health and social care workers should have 0 basic rate income tax for 3 years as a way of retaining staff and attracting staff back into the system, because we've got a national health emergency. No one else is talking about big, bold, radical solutions together with ways to fund
So it's the local elections where you're aiming to have a big performance? Because, of course, as the Brexit Party, which you were the chairman of, Nigel Farage was the leader, I mean, you gave the Tories a bloody nose.
We absolutely did.
Ended the premiership of Theresa May and saved Brexit.
Without question. It ended her premiership. It gave Boris the opportunity. And look, he's had his chance. They've all had their chance. We stood aside in 2019 in order to give them a thumping majority, and the truth is they've blown it. They've betrayed Brexit, they've let the nation down.
History could happen again. A lot of Tories I speak to, and yes, I will admit, they're on the pro-Boris side, but they are talking about a scenario now, which is that the Tories under Sunak have a disastrous local election, I imagine. I imagine you're going to be campaigning hard to have a good one. But at that point, next summer, the Tory MPs see sense and return Boris to the leadership.
You're having a laugh. Seriously, Dan? I mean, give over.
It's being discussed. It's being discussed.
I mean, the country doesn't want
It's being discussed by quite serious Tories.
Serious Tories may want him back, but the country does not want Boris Johnson back. The country wants a change of government. The country is done with this 12-year-old incompetent...
But he's more of a threat to reform, though, isn't he, than Rishi Sunak?
I don't think so. I mean, taxes were rising under him and Sunak as Chancellor before Boris left, and they didn't believe in anything. And I think people have had enough. They want change. And frankly, we represent that alternative.
And look, one area where we are completely aligned is on this disgusting betrayal of Brexit that's going on, and I talk about it on the show every night. I cannot believe that we're at 504,000 net migration.
Net, if you believe
over
the numbers.
a million.
The gross number, though, 1.1 million.
Over a million.
They've no idea really what the net number is, but it's off the scale. At the same time, they've just, over the last couple of days, said, well, we're not going to build any more houses in order to house these hundreds of thousands.
This is not what we voted for in 2016.
They've betrayed us on taking back control of lawful immigration. They've betrayed us on the illegal immigration. We're the only party that stands for zero illegal immigration. And frankly, outside healthcare, we need a pause. We need zero lawful immigration until there's a catch-up
Zero net lawful migration.
Zero net lawful
outside
of healthcare. Because
and that's because you say that healthcare is such an important area. We do need cheap.
It's the greatest crisis. No, it's not a question of cheap. We need skilled healthcare labour. I've put forward a plan in order to attract more people back in within the UK.
So what, these are doctors and nurses?
Doctors and nurses and surgeons and as well as social care workers, where there's shortages. So we've got to deal with that shortage. But outside of that,
you say net
we should have
migration.
We should have net zero lawful migration until, frankly, we all know where we are and we catch up. But look, the Tories have betrayed us. They've got no real commitment to stop the Channel crossings. We've got a clear 6-point plan. You have to leave the ECHR.
Some Tories do, though, but this is exactly. Yeah, and this is the issue. Some Tories do, because actually, I have great faith in the Home Secretary, Suella Braverman. I feel at the moment...
You had faith in Priti Patel?
I did.
You love the warm words, but where's the action now? Where's the delivery?
Well, no, the problem is the action needs to come from the Prime Minister. And what Rishi Sunak has to do is get the balls to say, go and Suella, do everything that Nick Timothy has just recommended, leave the ECHR. But we know Suella wants to do that. We know she wants to.
Yeah, she does, but he doesn't as Prime Minister. You can't do it unless you've got to start again with a whole new Department of Immigration, staffed by people who believe in the cause of stopping the boats, of controlling our borders, knowing who's coming in and who is going out. You've got to do that. You've got to make it clear that zero will be resettled in the UK. You've got to declare, as the Australians did, a national security threat. You've got to process everybody offshore, and you've got to make it fundamentally clear. And actually, you've got to pick up and take back to France, which you can do under existing laws if you have the courage and the nous to use those laws properly. They won't. I will.
Now, we're always very transparent here on GB News, and so even though he is a colleague, and in fact, he's usually here on a Tuesday night, of course, he's on holiday this week, I have to ask you the Nigel Farage question, because lots of folk saying actually the way to push Reform UK over the line is to get Nigel in some way back into frontline politics. As the leader of Reform UK, is that something that you're urging him to do? Would you be prepared to stand aside as leader if Nigel wanted to come back? Where are your conversations?
Well, you've heard Nigel recently, and we talk a lot, and he's as fuming and as mad and as cross about all of this as anybody, if not more, and he's made it very clear that he is considering his options, and if he wants to do anything, of course it will be with Reform UK. But what I say to people, look, we're not precious about titles, it's about action. Because frankly, what this country has not seen is action and performance. We've had too much words, too much waffle and spin. We need action, and we need it now, Dan.
So, but it would be possible that Nigel could return as Reform UK leader?
The most important thing is that Nigel, I think, he's got so much to give. As he said, it's not on his bucket list of... It wasn't his plan A.
We need him here.
He thought,
we need him here, that's why. I don't want you to steal him, actually.
Look, he's a busy man. He's got lots of people who want him.
Yeah, no, indeed he is. He's got options. Richard Tice, great to see you, leader of Reform UK. Thank you so much. But coming up, are ambulance workers and NHS staff putting lives at risk by walking out on patients? Fleet Street icon Calvin McKenzie is fuming at these callous strikers. He's uncancelled at 10:45. But next, as Prince Harry bemoans the pain and suffering of women marrying into the monarchy, are royal wives being let down? Or is the Duke of Sussex wrong to exploit Princess Diana to promote his and Meghan's Netflix show? My superstar panel return for more Sussex scrutiny in the media buzz straight after the break.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me! And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216,
Freeview Channel 236,
And YouView, Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio,
with the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere. Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Let's return to tomorrow's news site now in our Media Buzz. More front pages are in. Let's get straight to them. The Eye leads on the country's alarming Strep A outbreak, reporting that the government may have to buy extra supplies of antibiotics to protect primary school children from infections amid fears the current stockpile isn't enough to cover widespread use. Of course, fears that we're here because of lockdown. The Guardian claims that a company that Baroness Moan lobbied for to get COVID contracts was a secret entity of her husband's family office. The Tory peer allegedly received a formal rebuke from a health minister who reminded her of the need for propriety as she tried to secure a contract for LFI Diagnostics to provide lateral flow tests. In the Daily Mirror, Strep A took away my princess. This is the distraught father, Robert McCorkindale, paying tribute to his 5-year-old daughter, Stella Lilly, who tragically became the UK's 9th victim of the illness. Absolutely heartbreaking. The Daily Mail leads on the revelation that Labour is taking millions of pounds from the very unions trying to cripple Britain. That's according to data released by the Electoral Commission. They reportedly forked out £1.6 million to Starmer's party in the third quarter of this year alone, as Amanda Patel was saying earlier in the show. The Daily Express leads on ambulance staff putting lives at risk after they voted to walk out on the 21st of December. We're going to discuss this further with Calvin McKenzie in Uncancelled, so do stay tuned. The Times also reports on striking paramedic staff, and their top story, also on the front page, though, a former staff member at Buckingham Palace who claims to have been bullied by the Duchess of Sussex has called on the palace to reject their lies ahead of their upcoming Netflix series. Wow, I want to know more about that. The aforementioned Daily Mail columnist Amanda Patel is back with me now, alongside the Reverend Calvin Robinson and the Sunday Mirror's Nigel Nelson. Now, of the many questionable claims in Harry and Meghan's Netflix trailer, one of the most egregious is his suggestion that women who marry into the royal family endure pain and suffering.
The pain and suffering of women marrying into this institution, this feeding frenzy.
I realized they're never going to protect you.
Now, look, you know how much I love Princess Diana. Her story was tragic, and let's put it to one side. But the likes of Fergie, Kate and Sophie Wessex have all made tremendous successes of royal life in their own ways. Now, the Duchess of York, I know she was notoriously hated by the late Prince Philip, not least after her toe-sucking exploits after separating from Prince Andrew. We'll all remember that, I think, for as long as we live. But Fergie stuck at it. She didn't slag off the royal family, and 30 years later, she will be enjoying Christmas at Sandringham with her relatives, we're told. Kate Middleton was infamously teased during her early years with Prince William, being dubbed Weighty Katie. As Wills held off popping the question, now she's one of the most popular royals going and our much-respected Queen in waiting. And Prince Edward's rock, Sophie Wessex, navigated an embarrassing newspaper scene in 2001 when she was caught slagging off Tony and Cherie Blair, the good old days of the news of the world. She's now one of the family's most prominent faces after growing close to the late Queen in the years before she died. And ultimately, it was the dedication of these women, rather than their sex, that saw them sink or soar. What Harry doesn't understand is that people are judged on their character. And with Meghan, we just saw through it all. Right, Amanda Flattal?
There's actually something interesting this morning. Your colleague, Camilla Tomley, she wrote that in the Telegraph that 8 days after the engagement was announced, so this is 8 days back in 2016, a press statement was put out by the palace saying, using words like that a line had been crossed and Meghan had been subjected to a wave of abuse and harassment with racial undertones, and Prince Harry worried about her safety and deeply regretted his inability to protect her 6 days after they got engaged. So that was the narrative right back then. And that was an official
statement. Wasn't it just
statement.
6 days after they got together?
No, it was after they... I think it was 8 days after they got engaged.
Okay.
We can check that.
Yeah, we can check.
You're being pedantic.
Well, no, but the point is very early on.
Within days of her becoming public, he then came out with a statement, and Valentine Lowe wrote in his book about Meghan and Harry that she had insisted that he put that statement out. It's the same narrative. It's the same, I can't protect my family.
And had threatened to dump him.
She said she'd dump him if he didn't put that statement out. So we had then write the narrative from all that time ago, the racial undertones, not being able to protect her. She had, 24/7 Scotland Yard security. I think it was all planned from the beginning. This whole narrative, and she fed into poor old dim Harry's little...
Because let's be honest, she's no Diana on so many levels, but one of the reasons she's no Diana is once she was into this family, she was the age of Diana once Diana died. We grew up with Diana. Diana was a naive, virgin schoolgirl who had no idea the world of the media and how to win over the public. Meghan knew, or at least thought she knew, how to play that system.
Meghan came in job ready. Diana did learn, and she did become, much as those who loved her, she became incredibly manipulative, as we all knew, because we were part of the media that she was feeding stories to. But I just think it's really worrying that this narrative's been there all along. It's almost as though that she's kind of gone out to prove something, that she's decided really early on that she's going to prove this institution's racist and she's going to make a name off the back of it. And lo and behold, she's out there today getting an award for, highlighting hideous racism.
I mean, Calvin, that is insane, isn't it? In the early hours of this morning, Meghan and Harry are literally going on stage to collect an award for exposing structural racism within the royal family. What they're actually doing, Calvin, is exactly, or just over 3 months since the death of the late Queen Elizabeth the Great, as I call her, probably our greatest ever monarch. Well, I really believe that. And they are stamping all over her legacy.
Yeah.
Despicable.
What racism? What institutional racism? They still haven't provided any proof or any statements of any kind of what's gone on or who's said or done something. What it is, it's identity politics. Exactly the same as this statement saying women who marry into the family. No, it's not about women. When Meghan married into the family, we celebrated her, we welcomed her, we endorsed her, and then we saw through her, like you said. If anything, Her Royal Highness the Princess of Wales, Kate is idolised a little bit too much, I would say. So there's no agenda against women in the royal family at all. He is playing into the identity politics, and I think a lot of it comes down to the poor lad's trauma. He's obviously still working through things to do with his mother's death, and he hasn't handled that. And he's painted Meghan as his mother, and she's manipulated him and gone along with it and used that against him and against us.
Calvin, when did you get over that trauma?
You don't. You do.
Well, I would add one point to that. After my brother died, he left a 9-year-old boy, my nephew, and he's gone on to have a really successful life. Of course it's painful, of course there's trauma in it. He's got a great business, gorgeous wife and a gorgeous young baby. It doesn't have to be like that.
No.
Unless you've got some real crack in your psyche,
What you need is support, though, not someone who's going to manipulate you. He has a manipulative wife.
Well, of course he does.
He needs a good supportive wife.
Yeah, but come on, he had a lot of years to work this through.
It's interesting.
I don't think you can keep blaming that.
It's interesting, Nigel Nelson. Alison Pearson on the front page of tomorrow's Daily Telegraph has written a piece saying Diana would be appalled by the damage Harry is doing.
Yes, I think that's right. I mean, the whole thing is that Harry and Meghan are taking us all for mugs. And the mere fact that we are talking about their Netflix series the way we are now, the fact the whole nation is talking about it, seems to be exactly what they want to do. So the whole thing is tacky and tawdry, but deliberately so to get a big audience. The best thing we could all do, obviously, is ignore it. But, of course, we won't do that. And certainly, I'm another hypocrite. I should be watching on Thursday because I want to see what they've got to say.
But, Nigel, also, what's at stake is enormous damage to the royal family and to the institution.
Internationally, in particular. Absolutely. And actually, on a similar theme, this is fascinating. Again, you won't see this anywhere in the media, I promise you. Charity boss Ngozi Fulani, remember her? She unleashed chaos on the royal family after her racism claims last week. But a video which has gone viral on the social media platform TikTok suggests she's actually made a habit of using her clothing to draw attention to her heritage, which maybe could go a long way to explaining Lady Susan Hussey's unfortunate faux pas. Watch this.
I have to look a particular way. I have to profile a particular way. So, I sometimes find that I have to wear clothes that I usually wouldn't wear, okay? So I've come in the room in a way that I expect mainstream society to expect me to look, okay? Okay, what do you see when you see me? Does anything stand out?
I mean, there is more and more emerging about this woman.
It was obvious from the get-go. She's a race baiter. She's in the racial grievance industry. First of all, her charity only helps abused women that happen to be black.
It's a sister space.
Yes. She doesn't only disregard white women, she disregards mixed-race women.
And there are stories of mixed-race women I've been reading who have been turned away by her charity, or at least they claim she's turned away.
And she clearly hates the royal family. She has a history on social media of talking bad about the royal family. We know she wasn't personally invited. She got her way in through Sister Space, through the Safe Spaces charity, actually. And then she has an agenda. How did she transcribe that entire conversation with Lady Hussey? Was she recording it, or did she happen to... It doesn't matter, because it's against protocol anyway. So she set out to bring down the royal family. And why is it coinciding with the royal visit to the US as well?
Yes.
And what I find so disturbing about this story, Nigel, and the rest of the media isn't talking about it, is, as Calvin points out, she was an out-and-out member of the Sussex squad. I mean, do you not think it's relevant that she had actually accused King Charles and Queen Camilla of domestic violence towards Meghan? Because that is a deranged claim as far as I'm concerned. Where is the evidence for that? You can maybe say, oh, they weren't nice to her, but I don't even think there's evidence for that, to be honest. But do you know what I mean? Domestic violence.
Yeah, I mean, I became really uncomfortable with this whole story as the days went on. So the starting point was that I think it's right to have zero tolerance of racism at the palace. But then when you get a case like this, where does zero go? We're talking about a very minor event, however you cut it. Yeah. And then to actually end up dismissing somebody...
Well, and ruining a reputation forever, isn't it? That's the issue. Final word to you on all of this, Amanda?
There's some good news.
OK.
Ladbrokes, who know everything, reckon Harry and Meghan will be divorced by 2025. 3-to-1 odds. Bet now.
I always gave it 10 years. I always gave it 10 years, I have to be honest with you. That's annoying, Calvin. You say that again
Oh, sorry,
forever.
oh, sorry, OK, sorry. I'm not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. Nigel Nelson, thank you so much for coming up. Will pop star Rita Ora's in practical and eye-popping outfit to a lovely bash, get my knickers in a twist. I'll bring you a look at her controversial clobber in tonight's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. But first, with ambulance workers confirming they will walk out just 4 days before Christmas and nurses reportedly abandoning cancer wards, will striking health providers ever regain their halos after putting British lives at risk for money? Calvin McKenzie is uncancelling this straight after the break.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here. You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
It's time now for Uncancelled. And this is where Britain's top commentators speak out on controversial issues without the fear of the cancel culture sweeping the rest of the media. And if you thought rail strikes making you late for Christmas dinner was bad, just make sure you don't have a stroke or a heart attack over the festive period. Up to 100,000 NHS nurses are preparing to walk off the job in a row over pay, in addition to thousands of paramedics and 999 call handlers downing tools on December the 21st. The Royal College of Nursing said A&E departments, maternity care and cancer wards would not be excluded from strike action on December the 15th and 20th as staff demand a near 20% pay rise. Up to 140,000 patients could have operations cancelled after already spending months on eye-watering NHS waiting lists of 7.1 million people. Now, Fleet Street legend Calvin McKenzie is with me. And Calvin, you say these angel nurses will never regain their halos after this. Calvin, it's a bold statement. I expect it from you, but you're very serious about this, aren't you? You're furious with this strike action.
I find it unconscionable to believe that our health industry, the nurses, now the ambulance people, and the ambulance people have said that it'll be a matter of negotiation to decide who they go and pick up. So what they're saying is, it literally, I mean, if you're half dying and you're in the road in a car crash, they'll go for you. But if your old mum has broken a hip and she's lying in the bathroom, they're not going to go and pick her up. Who is going to pick up that lady? Who's going to pick up your dad? Who's going to worry about your child when you take them to A&E when there's nobody there and they say, I tell you what, we don't think that child is sick enough for us to spend our time with? I find it impossible to understand. I also find it impossible to understand how stupid the British public are. The voting currently, allegedly, in the latest YouGov poll, shows that 51% are hostile to RMT, disrupting our Christmas, disrupting our ability to get anywhere around the country to see our nearest and dearest. But 37% are in favour of it. Well, let's just say the 37% are probably, a good percentage of them are on probably universal credit, a good percentage of them are far lefties. But there is going to be some kind of middle-of-the-road ones who say, I'll tell you what, like teachers or social workers or those kinds of people who probably say, I'll tell you what, I think those people are fighting our battle for them. Let's hope they win, because we'll guarantee ourselves a pay rise without having to lose any money through having a strike. There is a shocking attitude in our country right now. I recognise that some people are really facing very difficult times. But if we all had a 20% pay hike, like the nurses, and by the way, NHS Digital, who do all the maths surrounding what pay looks like, says the average pay for a nurse is 40,000 a year anyway. Okay, this is NHS Digital. It's part of the collecting of the data. They are real people. But how do you feel? How does your audience feel about the idea? My mother had a stroke and then broke her hip and was lying on the floor, perhaps for. This was in good times. This is about 3 years ago, right? In good times, she probably was on the floor for, I don't know, an hour. There was a whole load of phone calls, me and her partner calling up. Now there's a story in the Times tomorrow in which some old boy, 85, fallen over, broken his hip, lived across the road from the hospital in Denbighshire in Wales, right? Nobody came to him for 7 hours. The family had to cover him in the rain with a tarpaulin and an umbrella.
It's disgraceful.
What a shock. And now there's an inquiry. There's an inquiry going on. The Welsh Ambulance Service say X. The hospitals say Y. Everybody's to blame. Have you ever noticed? It's never somebody. I tell you what, it's him over there. It's her over there. It all get lost in some kind of bureaucracy.
Well, yeah, and Calvin, the reality is these strikes will cause deaths. They will cause excess deaths. Now, whether they are deaths on the day, and I predict there will be deaths on the day, but they will cause deaths because of the addition to the backlog, which is already the biggest it's been in history. So it is, I agree with you. I think it's deeply irresponsible, these strikes.
So okay. People die, and the daughter comes out and the son comes out and says, you, the ambulance people, you, the nurses, you, the doctors, have killed my mum, they've killed my dad. Do you know what the unions will turn around? People like Unison, Unite, or GFB, or RMT, they'll all turn around and say, oh, it wasn't us what done it, it was the government what done it, they're not listening. Do you know what's incredible? One of those three unions, I refer to them as a troika of turds, right? One of those three unions has announced that they're going to reballot. They are going to reballot the hospitals that said no, the ambulance people who said no to the strike, in order to get the result which they want, which is to have more people out on strike and more people potentially to die.
Disgraceful.
If you get, can I ask you this? Alongside me, I really wish that you could have got somebody from one of those unions to come on and explain why they think
they're not brave enough to come
it is worth having a strike having a strike that kills people in order. So my mum's pain is gathering them a pay rise.
No, indeed.
Honestly,
well, we'll ask again.
Morality
we'll ask again if any of them are brave enough. Come on and debate, Calvin. We're going to put a call out to all of those unions tomorrow. Unfortunately, Calvin, I don't think they'll be brave enough to do that, but we will try. So stand by, Calvin McKenzie. Great to chat again. Of course, legendary former editor of The Sun. But it's time now to reveal today's greatest Britain in union jackass. Amanda Patel, who's your GB nominee?
Prince William, because he's done what Harry said he could never do. He's protected his family and kept them private. And Kate for putting up with all this. I don't know how she does it. So a joint one from me.
Calvin Robinson, your nominee.
St. Nicholas, because today is the feast of St. Nicholas, and of course he is the inspiration for Santa Claus, famous for giving presents to children and for punching heretics in the nose.
Oh yeah, we love St. Nick. Nigel Nelson, your GB nominee.
Yeah, and mine's going to be Angela Rayner, who's beginning to get the Tories to come clean over the various PPE contracts that they gave to their cronies.
I'm going to go with Prince William, because I think Amanda's point really is the right one. Despite everything that Harry has moaned about, well, actually, William is living proof that it is possible to live a relatively normal life, especially for young children within the royal family. Amanda Patel, your union jackass nominee.
Rita Ora, who turned it up at the British Fashion
So tell me
Award.
about this, because people have been talking about this all day. What's
look,
going on? Why are you such a prude about lovely Rita Ora?
Oh my gosh, is that what she wore?
That's what she
That's ridiculous.
wore.
What she didn't wear.
That is what she wore to
It's
the
the
British
Fashion Awards. What's your problem?
She's not even wearing any clothes.
It's the fashion. I think she.
Dan,
looks
she looks
amazing.
she looks trashy.
No,
it's not even.
I'm not with you on this one.
Sorry, she looks completely trashy.
I'm
And
not
I
with you
also
on this
think,
one.
On my high moral horse or whatever you get on, you know,
Get off
she's
your high horse.
No, stay on your horse.
I'm on my horse.
Oh, Calvin Robinson, your nominee.
Mick Lynch for cancelling Christmas.
And Nigel Nelson, your nominee.
Yeah, it's got to be Baroness Mohn for reportedly taking £29 million in PPE contracts.
She doesn't wear very much either, Amanda.
I've never
Do you
seen
hate her for that too?
I don't hate her. Just read her. Put some clothes on, for God's sake.
Do you know what? It was the Fashion Awards.
It is not the
going
fashion to
a
go out in your
normal event.
undies.
You know,
Because
they
Netflix
all
film
wear
most of you.
ridiculous things. At least she looked great, and that gave some people some joy, Amanda.
Oh.
Speaking of fashion,
so I'm going with Mick Lynch, Calvin. You've got the win.
Good man.
So don't moan. Lynch, who stole Christmas, as we call him earlier. Calvin Robinson, Amanda Patel, Nigel Nelson, thank you so much, my fabulous superstar panel. I am, of course, back again tomorrow night from 9 p.m. Thank you so much for your company tonight. It's been a great show. Headliners is next, though, so stay tuned. Good night.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you know, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here. You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing. You see, amazing.
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are